Russia is mourning the deaths of the 41 people who lost their lives after an Aeroflot flight crash-landed in Moscow on Sunday. The national carrier's Sukhoi superjet got into difficulty shortly after taking off and was forced to return to Sheremetyevo airport. The plane hit the runway hard and burst into flames as it bounced along the tarmac. It was quickly consumed by the fire. Most of those who died were from Murmansk, the northwestern city the flight was bound for.
Очень уважаемый мной человек. Я не хочу сейчас назвать ни фамилию, ни имя, ни отчество, потому что надеюсь, что это не так до установления экспертизы.
Родственникам погибших пережить это очень трудно, особенно когда гибнут дети. Невозможно.
Я понимаю, что у меня там нет родственников, еще чего-то, но это же, это же Мурманск, это же наш маленький город.
Some of the survivors have returned to Murmansk to be with their families and have been recounting the harrowing details of the crash and recalling the bravery of the crew. In particular, flight attendant Maxim Moiseev has been hailed a hero. He died trying to open the rear exit door in order to evacuate passengers trapped at the back of the plane.
The dream, which began in our school, lasted up until that day. He was a very responsible and goal-oriented person. He was always ready to take a hit. That's exactly what he showed on that day. He was expected to be at the front of the plane, but he switched places with the stewardess. Perhaps he expected something bad would happen. He took the hit himself.
He stayed inside the aircraft and pushed the surviving people along an inflatable ramp. He was inhaling smoke and then lost consciousness.
Look at his face. He always smiled. Always. He avoided conflicts. He was the kindest person. He is looking out from the photo, but he can't say a word. And I can't stop looking at him.
Yeah, some harrowing testimony there. Igor Zhdanov now recounts the stories of some of the other people who lost their lives on Sunday.
This is Albina, a businesswoman and single mother. She was returning from a business trip back to Murmansk, back to her 10-year-old son she was raising on her own. Somewhere in the same boarding queue with Albina, Yevgeny and 12-year-old Sofia. The surgeon had been giving his daughter an escape from their gloomy northern hometown to enjoy a few days in the warmth of the Moscow sun. Now, Tatiana welcomed Albina, Yevgeny, Sofia and all other passengers on board. The flight attendant was getting ready for yet another takeoff. Now, 3 minutes past 6 in the evening, the aircraft lifted into the skies from Sheremetyevo airport, a few minutes later than scheduled. The first 17 minutes of the flight went smoothly. Passengers in their seats, belts fastened, the Sukhoi superjet ascended, approaching a storm. And then everything went from okay to bad and then straight to hell, literally in a flash.
We took off and a bolt of lightning hit the plane.
An apparent lightning strike hits the jet. Now, modern aircraft have safety systems to protect themselves from situations exactly like these. But this time, the lightning sends all communication systems on board offline. The pilots send a distress signal, make a U-turn and head back to Moscow. Apparently, they go in almost blind. With limited communications, they can barely get any aid from the ground. They aim for an emergency landing on one of the runways, but the aircraft is too heavy. Minutes ago, it had been filled to the brim, and the pilots decided not to dump excess fuel. There's no definitive answer why, but the most likely theory so far is they didn't want to risk circling around a bustling aerial hub with only sporadic contact with the ground. So, weighty, the jet's wheels slam into the runway and bounce right off it. Another attempt, and the plane crash lands. Its tail hits the tarmac with such force, it ruptures the tanks, and all that fuel instantly catches fire. And as the blazing jet slides along the runway, passengers are helpless. The jet finally comes to a stop and the evacuation kicks off. By that moment, the fire had already devoured the back and the middle emergency exits. So there's only one way forward from the nose of the jet. Tatiana, the flight attendant, helps people through and down the chutes. Those who can walk, those who can't and are passed out, she literally shoves out of the door herself.
I'm alive only thanks to the stewardesses. The girls stood there in the smoke. It was dark, extremely hot, but they pulled people out and helped them get down the chutes.
Now, Tatiana helped a total of 37 people survive the mayhem. Albina, Yevgeny, and Sofia were not among them.
Пожалуйста, пожалуйста, давайте, ребята, быстрее!
Ksenia, once a happy wife and mother, in an instant is widowed and left childless. For her, tragedy has come calling again. She had already lost her niece, Alina, in a school shooting last year, and now it's her husband and daughter. And Tatiana, the unconditional hero. She may have survived herself, but she's still to make it through the day after day of survivor's guilt, haunted by the 41 she couldn't help.
Igor Zhdanov with the report. Well, the plane's black boxes have been recovered and an investigation into the crash is ongoing. The jet has now been removed from the runway.